I was standing at the altar, veil trembling slightly, just seconds away from saying I do. 300 guests filled St. Matthew's Cathedral in San Diego. The air smelled faintly of lilies and candle wax. Everyone was waiting, holding their breath, and then a chair scraped loudly across the marble floor. My maid of honor stood up, her voice cut straight through the silence. "I have to say something." Every head turned. My fiancé went pale beside me. My mother dropped the bouquet she was holding, and the entire church felt like an open wound. But I didn't cry. I didn't run. I simply looked at her, because my name is Olivia Carter. I was 29 years old, and I had been waiting for this moment. She stepped forward slowly, my best friend, my almost sister. Her hand rested protectively on her stomach. Her voice shook, but not from fear, from anticipation. "I'm pregnant." Gasps echoed through the cathedral. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." My fiancé, Daniel Hayes, stopped breathing. Then she said it. "With his baby." The room shattered into murmurs. Shock moved like electricity across the pews. But I smiled, a small, calm smile, because I already knew everything. Before I tell you how everything turned upside down, tell me something. Where are you watching from today? I always wonder how many people listening have sat in a room where everyone believed one version of the story, while only one person knew the truth. If you enjoy real emotional stories like this, stay with me. Because what happened next wasn't chaos. It was plan. I met Daniel 3 years earlier at a medical charity fundraiser downtown. One of those loud events filled with strangers pretending to enjoy small talk. The ballroom smelled like expensive perfume and catered chicken. I only attended because my manager insisted. I stood near a pillar studying a silent auction display when a voice beside me said, "This is awful, isn't it?" I turned. Tall, perfect suit, easy, confident smile. "The auction?" I asked. "Everything," he said, laughing quietly. "The noise, the pretending, the fake conversations." I laughed. He felt easy immediately. His name was Daniel. He worked in corporate finance, one of those impressive titles that sounded complicated and successful. He spoke to me for nearly an hour, ignored everyone else, asked questions, actually listened. The next day he called. Then flowers arrived at my office. He remembered a restaurant I casually mentioned once and made reservations. Dinner became weekends. Weekends became mornings together. 6 months later, he moved into my apartment. A year later, we bought a house. It felt effortless, safe, like life finally aligned. And then there was Vanessa, my maid of honor, my best friend since freshman year of college. We met at 18 in a tiny dorm room with broken air conditioning. She was loud, fearless, magnetic. I was quiet and cautious. She looked at me that first day and said, "You look like you need a drink." I didn't drink, but I went anyway. We survived everything together. Bad relationships, cheap apartments, career struggles. When her father died, I slept beside her on the floor for days. When my first boyfriend cheated, she held me while I cried. We called ourselves family by choice. So when Daniel entered my life, she celebrated harder than anyone. "He's rich and gorgeous," she joked. "You better marry him fast." When Daniel met Vanessa, they bonded instantly, too easily. But I didn't notice then. We became inseparable. Dinner nights, game nights, weekend trips. Daniel called her sis. She called him the brother she never had, and I believed it. Daniel proposed in our backyard one summer evening. Candles everywhere, soft music playing, Vanessa hiding behind the hedge taking pictures. He dropped to one knee. "Olivia," he said, voice emotional, "you make life feel peaceful." I said yes through tears. Vanessa ran toward us screaming, "We're getting married." She hugged us both like the moment belonged to her too, and maybe it already did. The first thing I asked after the proposal was, "Will you be my maid of honor?" She cried instantly. "Obviously, who else would it be?" We started wedding planning immediately. Dress fittings, venue tour, late-night planning calls. I thought it was the happiest season of my life. I was wrong. I just didn't see the cracks yet. Looking back, betrayal doesn't start loudly. It whispers. One afternoon, I found a lipstick in Daniel's car. Bright red. I never wore red. "Whose is this?" I asked casually. He barely glanced. "My sister's. She borrowed the car." It sounded reasonable. except his sister hadn't visited in weeks. I ignored the thought. Then came the perfume. I came home early one afternoon. Daniel was supposedly on a business call. But upstairs, the guest bathroom smelled strongly of Vanessa's gardenia perfume. Fresh, recent. Steam fogged the mirror. I stood frozen. Why would anyone use this bathroom? Daniel's office was downstairs. Later, I asked lightly, "Did you shower upstairs earlier?" He laughed. "Old pipes," he said. "You worry too much." He kissed my forehead. I felt foolish, so I convinced myself nothing was wrong. Days later, Vanessa came over to help address wedding invitations. She used the guest bathroom. The same strong gardenia scent filled the air. I almost asked her, "Were you here earlier this week? But how do you accuse your best friend of sleeping with your fiancé? You don't. You doubt yourself instead." Then the jokes began. At a birthday dinner, she raised her glass. "To Olivia, the luckiest woman alive." She stared at Daniel. "If he wasn't yours, I'd steal him." Everyone laughed. Daniel laughed too loudly. Something inside me went cold. But I stayed silent. The truth arrived quietly. It was 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. Daniel slept peacefully beside me. His phone lit up. A message preview appeared. "Vanessa, she's so trusting. I almost feel bad." My heart didn't break. It froze. I picked up the phone, unlocked it, scrolled. Months of messages, hotel bookings, photos, private jokes about me, cruel laughter. Then I saw it. "After the wedding, it'll be easier." They were waiting until marriage. Until finances merged, until legal protections locked me in. I wasn't a partner. I was a step in their plan. Then came the message that changed everything. Vanessa wrote, "I'm late." Daniel replied, "Take a test." A photo appeared. 2 pink lines. Positive. I sat on the cold bathroom floor staring at the screen. I didn't scream, didn't cry, because suddenly everything made sense. I returned the phone exactly where it had been, lay back beside him, and smiled into the darkness. They believed I was naive. Good. I needed them to believe that. The wedding was 6 months away, and it would become the perfect stage. The next morning, my first call wasn't to family, it was to a lawyer. The morning after I discovered the messages, Daniel kissed my forehead like nothing had changed. "Morning, bride," he said casually. I smiled back. "Morning." My voice sounded normal. That surprised me. Inside, everything had rearranged itself. The panic was gone. In its place was clarity. I poured coffee slowly, watching him scroll through his phone. He looked relaxed, comfortable, certain he was winning, and I realized something important. They weren't afraid of hurting me. They were confident I wouldn't fight back. That confidence became my advantage. I didn't confront him. I didn't accuse Vanessa. Instead, I became quieter, more agreeable, more trusting than ever. At breakfast, I said lightly, "We should finalize financial stuff before the wedding." Daniel looked up immediately. "What do you mean?" "Just practical things," I shrugged. "Joint accounts, future planning." His eyes softened with relief. "Yes," he said quickly. "That's smart." I watched recognition flicker behind his smile. He thought the plan was working. That afternoon, I met Rachel Kim, a family attorney recommended by a colleague. Her office smelled like leather and peppermint tea. She listened without interrupting while I explained everything. The messages, the pregnancy, the timing. When I finished, she leaned back slowly. "You're certain you want to proceed with the wedding?" "Yes," she studied me carefully. "You're not trying to save the relationship." "No." "Then why?" I folded my hands. "Because I want the truth revealed where they can't rewrite it." Rachel smiled faintly. "All right," she said. "Then we prepare properly." We modified the prenup. Nothing obvious, nothing dramatic, just careful clauses, infidelity penalties, financial disclosures, fraud protections, everything completely legal, everything signed willingly. When Daniel reviewed it later, he barely skimmed. "Standard stuff?" he asked. "Just protection for both of us," I said softly. He signed without hesitation. I remember thinking, "You really believe I'm still yours?" 3 days later, Vanessa invited me to lunch. She hugged me tightly when we met. "You look tired," she said. "Wedding stress." She laughed. "I swear planning weddings ruins friendships." The irony almost made me smile. We ordered salads. She talked endlessly about decorations, music, seating charts. Then she reached across the table. "You're happy, right?" The question felt rehearsed. "I am," I answered. Her shoulders relaxed visibly. She needed reassurance. She needed me unsuspecting. I realized then they were monitoring my emotional reactions, testing whether I knew. Which meant they were nervous too. Rachel introduced me to a licensed investigator named Mark Delaney. Calm voice, no judgment. "I document facts," he said simply. I handed him screenshots, dates, locations, credit card patterns. Within 2 weeks he returned with a folder. Hotel footage, receipts, timeline reports, photos, undeniable proof. I flipped through pages slowly. Each image confirmed what I already understood. This wasn't impulsive. It was sustained deception. Mark asked gently, "You okay?" "Yes," I said, and strangely I was, because every piece of evidence transformed pain into control. Vanessa began changing subtly, more possessive around Daniel, more performative affection toward me. At a bridal party gathering, she wrapped an arm around him while laughing. "You two are relationship goals," someone said. Vanessa answered before I could. "They really are perfect together." She squeezed his shoulder. Their eyes met briefly. A private language, hidden in plain sight. I watched guests smiling, completely unaware. For a moment, humiliation burned inside my chest. Then another emotion replaced it, patience, because humiliation only works when the target reacts, and I had stopped reacting. Later that night, Daniel asked casually, "You've been quiet lately." "Just tired," I replied. He studied me, searching for cracks. I met his gaze calmly. He nodded, satisfied. He believed he still controlled the narrative. One evening, I overheard Vanessa on the phone in our kitchen. She didn't know I had come home. "I told you," she whispered urgently. "After the wedding, everything changes." Pause. "Yes, he promised." My stomach tightened, not from jealousy, from realization. This wasn't only about love or betrayal. It was about timing. Financial timing, social timing, reputation timing. They needed the wedding to happen first, which meant the altar was the only place the truth could truly collapse their plan. That night I sat alone on the back patio, lights glowing softly across the yard where Daniel had proposed. I thought about loyalty, about trust, about how betrayal rarely comes from enemies. It comes from people you never think to guard against. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger fades, understanding stays, and understanding made me dangerous. 2 weeks before the wedding, I made one final arrangement. I met with the wedding coordinator privately. "I want full video recording," I said. "Already planned," she smiled. "No," I clarified gently. "Multiple angles, continuous recording, no interruptions." She looked confused but agreed. Then I arranged something else. Copies of evidence prepared, sealed, timed, ready. At the rehearsal dinner, Vanessa gave a toast. She stood smiling, wine glass raised. "To Natalie," she said warmly. "My sister in every way that matters." Guests smiled. My parents wiped tears. Then she added, "And to Daniel, the man who makes her complete." She looked at him again, too long, too intimate. A subtle display meant only for me, a private victory announcement. I felt everyone watching us, waiting for emotion. But I simply lifted my glass. "Thank you," I said calmly. The room relaxed. They believed I was blind. They believed tomorrow would belong to them. Daniel squeezed my hand afterward. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride tomorrow." I smiled. "I know." And for the first time, that statement carried a different meaning, because tomorrow wasn't just a wedding, it was exposure. And neither of them understood yet that the moment meant to destroy me would become the moment that destroyed their version of the story. The morning of my wedding felt strangely quiet, not peaceful, not joyful. Quiet like the moment before a storm breaks. Sunlight filtered through the hotel's suite windows while makeup artists moved around me. Hairspray lingered in the air. Someone laughed softly in the corner. Bridesmaids checked phones. Music played faintly. Everything looked normal. And that was the most surreal part, because I knew by sunset nothing about these relationships would remain the same. Vanessa walked in last. White robe, perfect makeup, bright smile. She hugged me tightly. "So today's the day," she whispered. Her arms lingered around me longer than necessary, like she was claiming victory early. "You nervous?" she asked. "A little," I answered calmly. She studied my face carefully, searching, always searching. I realized then she wasn't confident anymore. She was checking for signs, looking for confirmation that I still didn't know. I gave her nothing. While the others left to grab coffee, Vanessa stayed behind. The room fell quiet. She sat beside me. "You know," she said softly, "marriage changes people." I watched her reflection in the mirror. "How so?" she shrugged. "Sometimes you realize you chose the wrong person." There it was. A warning disguised as concern. My heartbeat slowed. "Do you think I did?" I asked gently. She hesitated, then smiled sweetly. "No, I just want you to be happy." Inside, I thought, "You want me unprepared." Aloud, I said only, "I appreciate that." She squeezed my hand. Her thumb trembled slightly. She was nervous. That told me everything. Later, Daniel knocked softly and entered. Everyone cheered when they saw him. He kissed my cheek carefully. "You look incredible." His voice sounded emotional, almost convincing. For a moment, I wondered if he felt guilt. Then I remembered the messages, the planning, the waiting. "You ready?" he asked. "Yes." He searched my eyes. "Everything okay?" Perfect opportunity, perfect test. I smiled warmly. "Everything is exactly how it should be." Relief flooded his face. He hugged me tightly. Behind him, Vanessa watched, and for a brief second their eyes met. A silent exchange, agreement, expectation. They believed the final act was hours away. As guests began arriving, my phone vibrated, a message from Mark, the investigator. "They met last night. I have footage." Attached, time-stamped video. Daniel and Vanessa entering a hotel together. 12 hours before my wedding. I watched it once, then locked my phone. No anger came, only certainty. Today would end everything. Music filled the cathedral. Guests stood. My father took my arm. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," he whispered. I swallowed emotion rising unexpectedly. Not grief, closure. As the doors opened, I saw Daniel waiting at the altar. Perfect suit, soft smile. Every guest believed they were witnessing love. And maybe they were, just not the version they imagined. Walking down that aisle felt surreal, each step measured, intentional. I wasn't walking toward marriage. I was walking toward truth. I reached the altar. Daniel took my hands. They were warm, slightly trembling, excited, confident. The priest began speaking. Vows approached. Everything moved toward inevitability. And then Vanessa stood. Her chair scraped loudly. Every head turned. "I'm sorry," she said, voice shaking. "I can't stay silent anymore." Gasps spread instantly. Daniel stiffened beside me. "What are you doing?" he whispered harshly. She ignored him. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm pregnant," she announced. Shock detonated across the church. Guests murmured. My mother stood halfway up. The priest froze. Vanessa looked directly at me. "And the baby is Daniel's." Whispers erupted. Phones lifted. Someone audibly gasped, exactly as she planned. A public humiliation, maximum damage. She expected collapse, tears, chaos, begging. Instead, I nodded slowly. "Yes," I said calmly. Silence crashed over the room. Vanessa blinked. "What?" "I know," I said gently. Now confusion replaced shock. Daniel's grip tightened painfully. "Natalie, what are you doing?" I turned toward the guests, my voice steady. "I found out months ago." The entire emotional direction of the room shifted instantly. Shock became curiosity. Curiosity became attention, and attention was power. Vanessa stepped forward desperately. "You're just saying that." "No," I interrupted calmly. "I read your messages." Her face drained of color. Daniel whispered sharply, "Stop talking." But momentum had already changed. Guests leaned forward. No one whispered anymore. They were listening. The humiliation meant for me had stalled mid-execution. And everyone felt it. I looked at Daniel. "Do you want to tell them?" I asked softly. "Or should I?" He stared at me like he no longer recognized who I was. "Natalie, we can talk privately." I smiled. That option ended when she stood up. The room went completely silent. I nodded toward the back. The wedding coordinator stepped forward exactly as arranged. A screen lowered behind the altar. Murmurs spread instantly. Daniel's voice rose. "What is this?" "Documentation," I said calmly. Video footage appeared. Hotel entries. Dates. Messages. Timestamps. Vanessa covered her mouth. Guests gasped again, but differently now. Not scandal. Recognition. Recontextualization. Every memory they held began rearranging. Vanessa suddenly shouted, "You drove him away. You were cold. You never understood him." A last attempt to shift blame. Some guests looked uncertain. Daniel grabbed onto it. "Yes," he said quickly, "our relationship wasn't working." I nodded gently. "You're right." They paused, surprised. "I trusted you completely," I continued calmly. "That must have been difficult." Soft laughter rippled unintentionally through the crowd. The narrative slipped again. Their attack failed. I took a folder from my bouquet arrangement. "Yes, you were waiting until after the wedding," I said. Daniel froze. "How?" "Because merging finances mattered," I continued. "And that's why you signed the prenup." The lawyer stepped forward from the front row. Gasps spread again. I opened the document. "Infidelity clause," I said calmly. "Fraud protection clause. Financial penalty activation." Daniel's face went white. Vanessa whispered, "No, no." "The marriage never finalized," I added softly. "So legally, you receive nothing." The room exhaled collectively. Everything snapped into place. The humiliation reversed completely. Guests began murmuring differently now. Not about me. About them. "Oh my God. They planned this. I can't believe." Every past interaction people remembered suddenly changed meaning. Their reputations collapsed in real time. No shouting. No revenge speech. Just truth. Delivered calmly. Irrefutably. Daniel tried one last time. "Natalie, please." I met his eyes. "No." One word. "Final." I turned to the priest. "I think the ceremony is concluded." He nodded silently. Applause began slowly. Then spread. Not celebration. Recognition. Respect. I walked down the aisle alone. Head high. Calm. Free. Outside, sunlight felt warmer. My father hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you." Friends gathered around quietly. No pity. Only support. Behind us, chaos continued inside the cathedral. But it no longer belonged to me. 6 months later, life felt lighter. I moved into a new apartment overlooking the ocean. Work flourished. Peace replaced vigilance. Sometimes people ask if I regret letting the wedding reach that point. I don't. Because closure isn't found in private arguments. It's found when truth becomes undeniable. I didn't win because they lost. I won because I stopped pretending loyalty existed where it never had. And once illusion disappears, peace arrives quietly. Tell me honestly, if you were standing at that altar, would you have exposed them publicly? Or walked away silently? I really want to know what you would have done.